It's not just the Americans that make these jumbo luxury SUVs that are body on frame. Infiniti and Lexus have been at it a long time.
It's true. And while this generation of LX has been around for a few years now, Infiniti has graced us with a much larger, much more high-end QX80 for this year.
I get it, high end.
Yeah.
So before we get started, quick question, Kyle. Who has the bigger grille?
Oh, without a doubt. Well, I mean, this one is taller.
This used to be the champion, but this is a pretty sizable grille. And then you can add the second grille,
but
third grille.
I mean, the question though is
Fourth
really, which one has the light up logo?
True. This wins. And this one has actual pass-through vents.
Oh.
Yours, cool radiators. Mine just arrow something.
Mine collects dead wasps, apparently.
All right, well, that's for the car to do. Let's head out on the road and drive them ourselves.
All right.
Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys.
Now these two do have remarkably similar powertrains. This also has a turbo V6 and it's only 1/10 of a liter smaller. It does have less power though. The Lexus has 409 horsepower, whereas the Infiniti is putting out 450. But in the Lexus's advantage here, being smaller, it doesn't feel slower. It's a 10-speed automatic transmission that does a pretty good job of, well, keeping it right in the meat of the power band. There is one thing though, as I take off from a stop there, that is a little bit of a problem for me personally, and that's just the sensitivity of the throttle. It did take a little bit of time to get used to, but the throttle is pretty sensitive, especially starting off. So it just makes it a little tough for the LX to get going smoothly. Again, it only takes a little bit of time to get used to, but it is something noticeable between these two vehicles. The Infiniti is just a little more relaxed, and, well, that's keeping in theme with its whole modern luxury approach. It does just feel smaller in here, and that really does translate to everything about how the LX drives. It seems huge and tall in isolation, but against the Infiniti, it's actually kind of compact. Both of them have remarkably tight turning circles for things so big, so that's a positive. I personally prefer how the Lexus feels from behind the wheel. The steering position, it's easier to get in and out of. This is a nice small wheel, so it's easy to turn, easy to see out of. I get more feedback from this steering wheel. I mean, not a ton in either of them, because that's not the point. But I think in the case of this coming from an off-roader first and being turned into a luxury vehicle, it just generally gives you a little bit more positive feel, whereas the Infiniti just wants to keep you completely isolated from everything going on outside. It is your home away from home. That might appeal to some people. I want at least some semblance of a connection.
As should be expected in SUVs costing six figures, there's a lot of features and equipment that comes included. Both vehicles have heated and ventilated seats for both front seat passengers and middle row passengers. In the Lexus, it's the two on the outside, not the one in the middle. Both have secondary screens here. There's one underneath the infotainment system that controls various climate control and other vehicle functions. And of course, the driver's seat can be customized in a ton of different ways, and there's nice, comfortable, premium feeling leather on the seats in both the QX and the LX. But the QX comes with quite a bit of features that aren't included in the LX. For starters, as you can see above me, there's a big panoramic sunroof. That's not in the LX we have on hand. And the cover for this is power operated, whereas the LX Luxuries is hand operated. I mean, it's like a frill, but when you're paying this kind of money, that's what you're expecting. That middle row bench in the LX, no power operation, and it doesn't really adjust much other than a manual lever for the backrest. In this vehicle, there are full power seats for the captain's chairs that go forward and backward, and the backrest goes backward and forward. And then there's a screen sitting between the seats that allow the passengers back there to also adjust their lumbar. And even though both vehicles have heated and ventilated seats for the second row, in the QX, it's multi-stage and can again be controlled through that screen. Since the second rows aren't powered in the Lexus, you can't put them up and down from switches in the rear hatch like you can in the QX. They just power down and then stay there. And while we're on the topic of the hatch, there's a lot more room in the Infiniti than the Lexus. There's other little differences too, like the QX has a fully digital dash that kind of blends straight into the infotainment screen. The LX has two distinct separate screens, and its dash only has a small portion that's digital and customizable. Don't get me wrong, the LX interior is full of quality materials that are pleasing to the eye and nice to touch, and it does have its own style. But the QX80, it's almost like an art piece in here. Every single material and shape and texture has been built to complement one another, and going from different materials, there's the same sort of design theme, and it's just so well done. Sometimes luxury automakers can go way overboard trying to make something modern or stylish or both, but Infiniti really nailed it here. This is easily the best interior I think they've ever done. But as Kyle's quick to point out, there is a lot of shiny black in this interior, and a lot of it is near or on touchscreen, so there will be fingerprints aplenty.
Advantage Infiniti when it comes to sound, which seems like an odd pick because that doesn't really seem like the purpose of the Infiniti. But yeah, it has a pretty great sounding V6 engine, whereas this is just kind of grumbly. There's no real character to the LXs. It's fine, but the Infiniti sounds better, if you care about that sort of thing. Now, taking turns in the LX, I'm reminded of how jiggly this suspension is. Both of these vehicles have air suspension, and so that's really great stationary. They raise and lower to make it easier to get in and out of. But the off-roading roots of the LX show through whenever you're going over a bunch of uneven bumps or even just making a lot of really quick left-right movements. The LX just feels like it's on stilts in comparison. It's got a lot of very exaggerated body motions that you don't get in the Infiniti. The QX80 tries to just roll over everything, and like I said before, isolate you from any sort of problems you might have to deal with in the real world. On the LX, no, it doesn't have that. It just lets you know all the time.
The experience behind the wheel is quite a contrast from a comfort and seating position. The dash on the Infiniti feels lower and wider, partially because it is, and also just the way the screens and all the details are laid out. And I just feel like I'm sitting up higher with a more commanding view and more of a substantial big vehicle. Whereas in the LX, it does a good job of hiding its size behind the wheel. The whole vehicle feels like it kind of surrounds you more. And I guess it all comes down to personal taste. But these are big, large SUVs, and I think the feeling of airiness and space is part of what buyers are looking for. As far as actual seat comfort, well, it's Lexus and Infiniti. They know what they're doing with seats, and they're both very comfortable. So we've been saying a lot how that is much bigger than this, the LX. So here's just another example, the seating space. Although, you know what, in the second row, I got leg room and I got okay headroom.
Yeah, it looks pretty spacious up there.
Who said that? Who's back there in the dark cave?
Yeah, the third row is not great. In fact, I'm comfortable saying that this is probably the worst third row in the luxury segment, at least in the full-size one. I can't put my head against the headrest because then I'm against the roof.
Your headrest is on the door.
Yeah.
Hold on, let me move the seat forward. Oh, right, these don't move.
The seat cushion is just... It's just that. It's a cushion. It's mostly like a stool, and my ankle is in line with it, so my knees are right up. There is actually a decent amount of leg room, so if you do stick adults back here, they're not going to be cramped, but they're still going to hate it.
Long leg, short torso. And look at your window to see out. It's...
Oh yeah, this is a wonderful... Oh, it's actually... Okay, at least it's still soft touch back here.
and you'll get a vent blowing hot or cold air right in your face.
And I can power recline. Recline... Actually, no, I can... straighten in case I want to be even more upright and closer to my knees.
That's something I can't even do. I gotta pull a lever like a...
Oh no, you knocked over my camera. Aww. Anyway,
I really do like the
Yeah.
vent that just blasts you in the face. And how many can fit back there? Just 2?
Yeah, just 2 seats.
Well, the only other thing up here that's like the armrests are nice and all that, but the seat cushion is still pretty low. Like my thighs are in the air. I'm surprised for second row. And as I said, there's no adjustability, so this is how I'm sitting.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to the Infiniti.
Yes. Okay, so immediately I feel much better in the back of the Infiniti because I'm sitting in a position that resembles an adult human position and not like you're stuck at the kids' table for Thanksgiving.
It's still small, but
Yeah, it's still small. Like the headrests need to come up all the way, but at least I'm not hitting the tailgate. And my hip point is actually within a couple inches of my knees.
and you get another face vent.
I do. I like face vents. That's a great
like
feature.
in your ear, but you do have a window you can see out of, which is kind of nice.
Yeah, I get quite a lot of window, and I get 2 big cup holders. I get heated third row, which is pretty rare just in any vehicle. Oh, I do get some soft touch, but only on the roof. I don't get any. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, in fairness, the seat cushion's still a little low here for me. Same thing, my legs are almost the same position. Armrests are nice. Now this is a captain's chair compared to the bench in there, but you can seat 3 back there, right?
Yep. I mean, they're gonna have to be pretty tiny, but at least it's 3 seats.
Yeah, so they're both 7-seaters.
Yeah.
And I have a power seat. I can actually move forward and back. I can't move up and down, but I can do the backrest in this.
Counterpoint, it's easier to fold things up without power. But I mean, those to get into the back, it's power for both of them. And because this is just a bigger door opening, it is slightly easier to get back here.
And I have a touch screen here to control things. So if I'm
True.
lazy and I don't want to reach here to hit my heated or ventilated seats or use the power, I can do it all here.
And that means the kids are definitely going to play with that.
Oh, for sure. And there's lots of storage here. And yeah,
That is actually pretty useful.
yeah, this is definitely the better vehicle for passengers. Like I have a vent too, and I have ones coming down on my feet. I think you have a foot one back there.
Yeah. Both vehicles have lower vent as well as face vent. So.
And the middle row is still super stylish, like the front. It kind of just stopped for the third row. Is it?
Well.
No, I mean like on the doors and the sides and stuff.
Oh yeah. But I mean, the seats look nice. They're still quilting
I
back
get
here.
a speaker back there too. It's nice.
Yeah. Wait, you can play with other people's adjustments. So if your kids are sitting in the left and right, they can adjust each other's seats. Oh, that's not going to cause any issues at all. What kid would possibly annoy their sibling on a long drive?
I'll get close to dad. I'll get close to mom. Here you go. There should be like a reset button.
There should be, or memory seats. Second row memory seats. That's the thing that needs to happen.
All right. I don't know how to put that back.
Well, it's like that for now on then. Here, hold on. Oh no! Oh no, it's me! No, stop. Okay.
Why would you want to hold the seat from that button there?
Yeah, what use is this? Oh yeah, I'd like to just not be here anymore. Ejecto slowly.
It must be if you're trying to load.
It doesn't seem to... Okay, it has no idea I'm here. Ow. Okay.
It must be if you're trying to load from the door. You can
Yeah,
take the third row down.
But like, okay, well that's a weird feature. Yeah, that one definitely will. But I'm not sitting in it. That's weird that it just kept doing it anyway. Okay, well I'm glad I'm not injured. Yours will just keep going.
Yep. Ow.
Okay, well, learn something new about the Infiniti.
So kids, don't do that to your sibling while driving.
While the LX does feel smaller in comparison, you still are pretty high up. I'm looking at the roof lines of most regular SUVs out here on the road, and there's a really commanding view out over the hood. There's that little indent right in the center that gives you an idea of, well, where the center of the vehicle is, which is important when it's something this wide. But it's a weird trick of perspective where from the driver's seat, it constantly looks like the passenger side is just drooping slightly. It's not. We've checked, but it just kind of looks that way. Another positive in the LX, though, at least for people who prefer traditional approaches, is this nice foolproof shifter. I don't have to worry about pressing buttons, especially because the buttons in the Infiniti are all piano black and you're just gonna get smudges everywhere. So I personally much prefer this. and I feel like a good chunk of people will too.
So the way the 3 screens are set up, the one on the infotainment, the one to control features down here between the driver and passenger, and the one in the rear seat, they may look familiar, and they have a very Land Rover, Range Rover feel to them, and inspiration from that vehicle seems to also be evident on the exterior. The new QX80 has a very sort of blocky design that also flows, which is how I describe the Range Rover. It really has a presence, and it's not just because of that big grille. The vehicle just kind of stands out and gets noticed, even in a very mundane color like the one I have here. The Lexus has presence too, but the whole styling language it incorporates feels like it's been around for a long time, and with all the other vehicles in the family looking so similar, it kind of gets lost in the crowd. So the QX80 comes with more space, more power, and more features, so it must have more price, right? Well, no, it doesn't. In the US, pricing between these two models are separated by about $1,000 for the QX80, and in Canada, it's actually quite a bit cheaper.
Now, don't get me wrong, the Lexus LX is a true flagship for Lexus, but it's just that the gap is a much smaller one now. With the new GX being so much nicer and, well, basically the same size, the LX is just struggling to feel truly special these days.
You're right, it really does feel like sort of old school Lexus luxury. Like owners will like the new vehicle, but I don't know if they'll attract new customers into it. Whereas Infiniti, well, they just kind of tore up the playbook of the old QX and grabbed a page out of Range Rover's book, as I keep mentioning, and I mean that in a good way. This is like a Japanese Range Rover. That's for what it is. I mean, it's hard to say a 6-figure vehicle is a great value, but it is when you compare it to other vehicles around its price point. It has so much power, comfort, luxury, style. It's really so much better than the old model.
It's true, and I think, especially in Canada, it's such a good value compared to the Lexus. And I think at the end of the day, the Lexus feels more like an off-roader that's being turned into a luxury vehicle, whereas this just feels like a luxury vehicle through and through.
Yep, guess it wins.
I guess this is the winner of this comparison. But we can always do a rematch when that gets the hybrid that I'm gonna drive in a month.
Is it gonna make it bigger?
Nope, not gonna make it bigger. The third row is still gonna be terrible.
It sound right, boy.
I'm saying it now. Mike's probably gonna delete this. This has the better sound system. I know, it's so cool that the speakers are in the headrests in the Infiniti, but I prefer the clean notes of the Mark Levinson sound system.